So imagine this. The Roman Empire, the great unifier, has collapsed. Europe is now this chaotic patchwork of brand new kingdoms, different cultures all bumping up against each other. And right in the middle of it all, you have the Christian church, facing a massive, fundamental problem.
How on earth do you maintain one universal faith, a common set of rules, across dozens of different territories? I mean, each one has its own king, its own local culture, its own unique set of problems. There was no single unified rulebook that everybody could just turn to. Instead, what popped up was something way more interesting.
The answer is a concept we call particularism. And really, it's just a fancy word for the idea that law is not one size fits all. It's got to be custom fit. It's what you get when you try to blend the memory of old Roman law with new Germanic traditions and Christian beliefs, but you do it in wildly different environments. I mean, think about it. The kind of law that works for a stable, powerful empire is just not going to work for a tiny kingdom that's constantly under attack.
Okay, so to really see this in action, let's look at two places that are polar opposites: the incredibly powerful Byzantine Empire in the east and the church in North Africa, which was basically in a permanent state of crisis under Vandal rule.
The contrast here is just, wow. It's night and day. In the East, you've got the Byzantines, the direct heirs to Rome. Church and state were in this deep interplay, this osmosis. Their legal debates were super sophisticated, dealing with the exact theological qualifications a bishop needed to have. But then you look at Africa. Under persecution, the church was just trying to survive. Their laws were about the basics, like, okay, how do we bring people back into the community after they caved under pressure? Their legal systems could not have been more different, because their realities were completely different.
So, the Collectio Trullana, this thing was an absolute monument. The Eastern Church had been so active, holding so many councils that they basically had a mess of laws that needed organizing. And this collection was the answer. It was this massive, incredibly well-organized code that became the blueprint, the matrix, for Byzantine law for centuries to come. It was the product of a stable, confident, and very legally minded culture.
And this quote, this just says it all about the other extreme. In North Africa, under the brutal and exploitative rule of the Vandals, the church wasn't thriving. It was just trying to subsist. Their most important legal text, the Breviatio Canonum, wasn't some grand systematic code. No way. It was a summary, a summarium, a field manual with the absolute bare minimum written in the simplest grammar possible, so that a community that was beaten down could still understand the basic rules for survival.
Okay, let's shift gears and travel to our next stop, Italy. Right in the heart of the old empire, something totally different was brewing. In the early 6th century, Rome had this incredible burst of intellectual energy that we call the Galatian Renaissance, and it came with a really bold new legal ambition.
In that ambition, it was all built on a brand new, game-changing structure, a structure that would literally shape church law for the next 1,000 years, and it was elegantly divided in two.
So this brilliant monk, Dionysius Exiguus, he creates what we call the Collectio Dionysiana. And for the very first time, a major collection of laws is systematically split into two distinct parts. First, you have the Liber Canonum, which held the laws from the big church councils, the collective voice of all the bishops together. But the second part, the Liber Decretalium, that was the revolutionary bit. It was a collection of legal rulings coming straight from the popes, the bishops of Rome, acting as the final judge.
Now, you gotta understand, this wasn't just about tidying up some legal documents. This was a statement. It was a power move. The whole goal was to promote Romanitas, this idea of the unique central authority of Rome and its bishop. By putting papal decrees on the same level as the great councils, these collections were trying to create a universal law, one that flowed from Rome out to the entire Christian world. It was really the first great push to create something bigger than local particular law.
All right, let's head west now, to Visigothic Spain. This place, it was maybe the most fertile ground for canon law in the entire early medieval world. Seriously, the church and the monarchy there existed in this state of almost perfect harmony.
And this wasn't just a brief honeymoon period. We're talking about a long, incredibly stable relationship. The Visigothic kings didn't just put up with the church, they actively championed it. King Record's public conversion in 589 was the real turning point. It kicked off this amazing series of 18 general councils in the city of Toledo, which just pumped out a constant stream of new legislation.
All of this intense legal activity gave birth to the great Spanish collection, the Collectio Hispana.
Now, don't think of this as some static book that just sat on a shelf. No, it was more like a living document, a collection in constant motion. Every time a Council of Toledo met and made new laws, the Hispana got an update. And because of this unique harmony, you got laws you just wouldn't find anywhere else, like canons that said the king himself had a sacred duty to defend the faith, a perfect fusion of royal and church power.
So, we've seen stability in Byzantium, crisis in Africa, ambition in Italy, and this incredible harmony in Spain. What does all this tell us? It shows us that law isn't just a set of rules, it's a mirror. It reflects the society that makes it.
Let's just look at one last example to tie it all together. The Gallic North, under the Merovingian Franks. The political situation there was a mess, fragmented, unstable, often chaotic. So what was their law focused on? Survival. Collections like the Vitis Gallica weren't trying to write a universal code for all time. Nope, they were focused on strengthening the church's internal management, specifically giving more power to the regional archbishops, the metropolitans, so the institution could just hold itself together while the political world fell apart around it.
And that brings us to the key takeaway from all of this. None of these collections were failures. The stripped-down African code, the ambitious Roman one, the constantly evolving Spanish version, they were all huge successes because they were perfectly tailored to their unique situations. This whole era of particularism, it wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a totally necessary period of vital legal experiments. Each one was solving a different problem, and together they were all laying the foundation for the unified law that would finally emerge centuries later.
You see, these ancient law books teach us something incredibly powerful. Laws are never just a set of dry rules handed down from on high. They are a reflection of a society's deepest fears, its biggest ambitions, its day-to-day struggles, and its core values. And that kind of leaves us with a big question to chew on, doesn't it? What does our law say about us?